Welcome to the Coffin Table podcast, where we breathe new life into films thought dead and buried. I'm fresh-eyed film fan Anita Dirtnap.
And I am film historian, horror host, and undead aficionado, Sir Corfagus. I've dug up the best, the worst, and the most bizarre that Hollywood has to offer, so grab enough coffee to wake the dead. This is the Coffin Table podcast. Greetings, gentle listeners. This is episode 2 of our going on 3-part series for Alien Earth. Now, obviously, we've taken on the first 2 episodes because there's a lot of meat in the first half of this series. And now we're moving on to episode 3. Joining us is the very, very knowledgeable Alien Theory. Would you like to introduce yourself again, sir?
Yes, I would love to introduce myself. I'm Alien Theory. No, you can just call me Derek if you like, Alien Theory. Great to be here again. We're doing part 2 of a now 12-part podcast series on Alien Earth. We're doing episode 3. No, I'm kidding. But we're on part 2, episode 3.
All right, fantastic. Now, you're probably one of the most knowledgeable people about the Alien franchise that I'm aware of, simply because you've dedicated an entire YouTube series to it, a couple of film essays and whatnot. I have a question though for you before we get too heavily involved. What, out of all the different fandoms, what made you go, nah, xenomorphs, this is my jam?
I've loved this series ever since I was a little kid. I've been obsessed with it since maybe 6 years old. First Alien movie I saw was actually Alien 3. So that one's always kind of held a special place in my heart. And mostly the YouTube channel came from just not seeing a lot of Alien stuff. I mean, you could throw a rock and find, like a Star Wars channel, which is fair enough because, I mean, it's a vast universe. But I would say there's a lot to the Alien series. So that's what led to that decision. And here we are. We have a TV series that's pretty amazing. So we're expanding the universe as we speak here and now in 2025, which is kind of cool.
I mean, that's true. We don't exactly have the Ewoks made-for-TV movie, but we do have Alien Earth and Prometheus. So that's at least something going for us. We're not quite at Mando and Grogu status in pop culture, at least
I am very much waiting for the Alien franchise Christmas special.
Hey, the more xenomorph Wookiees, the better. Anyway, so let's talk episode 3. This one is where a lot of my preconceptions about the show and how the direction it was going to take and things like that changed. This is where, I still had a couple of, I wonder if they're going to do this isms, but generally episode 3 is whenever they really started to go, nah, we're going to try and do something different here. Starts off obviously with Marrow, and he had just captured the alien, wrapped it in a net, and was dragging it away, only for the alien to go, no, I have a barbed tail, and starts cutting the net and freeing itself, etc. So what were your initial impressions? What were y'all's guys? Boy, that was terrible English. What were your, I still can't English, verbiage. What'd you think of episode 3?
There you go.
Anita, please. I insist.
You're so polite. It's that Canadian politeness. Yeah, no, I mean, first off, I am very excited for the new toys that they're introducing with this series. Like, we have the stun guns, and now we have this gun that shoots a goo net out, which doesn't sound appetizing in the least, but it I I'm more interested in what other technology advances they've made with weaponry and things like that. Like where are we standing with those types of things? Because we don't ever really see it outside of if they're just shooting at the xenomorphs or using it to capture something. So I am interested to see if they continue with that, with adding more to that sort of lore of the world. Other than that, though, I mean, right off the bat, we are given the xenomorph like popping out of this containment and bloodbath and almost kill, like going after Morrow, but plot armor. Um, which I mean, I get. I know we touched on it a bit with Joe last episode with him having the plot armor, but if you kill everyone in the first 3 episodes, you're not going to have much of a cast left. So I get it. I
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It's always been one of those things for me that I'm just kind of going, this doesn't make sense.
mm-hmm.
You know, I think it would
Man,
be
if only the crew of the Nostromo had that goo gun, their problems would
Right?
have been solved in 5 minutes.
heck. Those guys didn't even have an actual gun. They had to like create a flamethrower out of propane tanks and a box of matches.
And they had that cradle,
Cradle.
that cattle pod, the cradle
Yeah,
pod.
it was
I
a
can't
cattle
English
prod.
either, apparently.
It's contagious.
Am
Yeah,
I
no,
being
I think
cattle? I don't know.
they do have the cattle prod. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it
Episode
was.
3 for me. I mean, it was. Whoa, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say I don't think it was until episode, not episode 2, um, the sequel, Aliens, that we actually got guns in the mix.
Yeah.
It's just
And
funny. You
even
ever see that like old advertisement? I think it was like in TV Guide where they had this weird mock-up of the first movie, some original art that they did, where it almost looks like it's like a 70s cop movie where Ripley's like holding a gun. It's like I don't know if you guys have seen that. I can send that to you, but it's very helpful for the listeners of the podcast to hear this description of a funny image, but that circulates around a little bit. Uh, no guns whatsoever, and yet they put it in this advertisement. I just thought it
Yep.
was funny.
look, okay, advertisers do weird things, especially if you get into international markets, because then it gets very bizarre. There's,
Polish
Bra-
posters.
yeah, oh my gosh, like Brazil. Like everyone makes fun of Turkey. Turkey has all the knockoffs, but like Brazil is the ones that will just slap on anything they can think of to throw onto a poster to make it seem like something you'd want to watch. Infamously, the Power Rangers poster had blood and guts and decapitations on the poster. So like honestly, nothing surprises me anymore.
And we all know that Power Rangers is just known for the blood, guts, and decapitation. Jesus Christ!
It's happening to you too.
Ah, got me
You've
too.
infected us all.
It's that Egyptian curse. No, well, of course, Anita. Don't you know monsters bleed sparks,
Of
and
course.
that's just natural and topical, considering 90% of our creatures in this are both synthetic and vaguely mechanical with their exoskeleton.
So true.
So.
Anyways, Alien Theory, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just those first 2 episodes, one night, big event. It was a huge kind of hype thing, and I would say it lived up to the hype. I mean, everyone's going to have their own expectation of what an Alien TV series would be, and it's not as if you can just have just this one. I mean, just like with Star Wars or whatever, you could have any number. Walking Dead, they have like 3, 4 different shows. So I mean, this wouldn't necessarily limit what we can do with Alien. But for the most part, I think they kind of nailed the atmosphere and they introduced new ideas, new characters. For the most part, I think fans were pretty happy with it mostly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
There's
for,
one thing about this franchise that I've noticed is every time they think that they have gotten to the point where, okay, nothing will ever top this, they add in a hybrid. So in the classic four, we had the human alien hybrid of the clone Ripley, and that Eldritch Abomination. And then we had AVP, we had the hybrid there. And then we had now in this show the hybrid, which is human synthetic. So like every time it feels like every time they think that they've gotten to a crescendoing point, they say, and the hybrid shows up, and it's always something different.
yeah, I think they're chasing the high of the alien queen. They always want to introduce this new thing, and it just never works. So, what can we do? Yeah, hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. Um, episode 3. This is for me where it kind of started. I don't know, feeling like, uh-oh, they're kind of putting that carrot in front of the cart, making us chase it a little bit, introducing ideas that we're gonna have to tune in to the next week, and kind of things almost happening but not quite happening, which in this kind of episode 3 and 4, I'd say, kind of takes a dip for me. We do end up leaving the towers, the Prodigy City towers. We go back to the island, the Neverland Research Island, and that's where we are for the next 2 episodes. Uh, there's good stuff, but for me, I feel, I don't know, I've gotten a little tired of this island pretty quickly, and it very much occurred to me that because this is a prequel to Alien, and we know in Alien and Aliens 1986 that humanity hasn't heard of these aliens. So it has to be a contained location, just as it was in Alien versus Predator. They put it in Antarctica, right? Um, so a lot of time is spent on this island, which I don't know. It dips a little bit for me here, but I think we rise up a little bit, probably in the 5th episode, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I just kept expecting a polar bear and for the episode to end at a church. Points if you get that. But no, you're right. Okay, so I liked the idea of the island for a xenomorph because we always see it in either the ship setting or we see it in this form of isolation. It's always an artificial environment where the xenomorph is being contained. And I immediately was like, oh man, this thing gets out. Oh, because then we'd have a jungle based xenomorph running around hiding. How is that going to work? It's on the island, so it is technically still contained. Uh, but as we know from Resurrection, they can swim. But like maybe they don't have a salt bladder. I don't know. Like there were ways they could go with this, and I was interested to see how they were going to do it. You're right. Canonically, no one's supposed to know about these things. All of the deaths could be attributed to some accident that happened because of the ship crashing into the tower. For the most part, they'd have to hide a few grisly details, but generally speaking, like the vivisection, you could just go, I mean, yeah, sure, there was a crash downstairs. They fell and got cleaved in two, something of that nature. But I was interested to see how this was going to go down. Um, and then they kill Bear off screen.
Ah, that's too bad, huh? R.I.P. Bear.
Yeah. I was really hoping that they were actually going to do something to maybe knock Bear out or something of that nature. Like when Wendy gets nabbed trying to protect her brother, and she dips into that door and it closes and then it opens back up and she's just standing there. I genuinely thought that something had happened and she had glitched out, and then we were going to get our first uh like reason to suspect that there is a reason why the hybrids don't exist in later media. Um, and you know, we have um, we have that only to then pan down and she killed it with a paper cutter
Well, and
off screen
I
in the dark.
I was so confused at where they were leading it after that, because now there's no alien. There's no xenomorph, which is supposed to be the main monster of this entire franchise, and you killed it in 3 episodes. So sitting there watching this, I'm just going, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, there was a buddy of ours that was watching it alongside us going, why does no one ever throw like baking soda on this blood? You know, have it stop eating through stuff, please. Someone, anyone, throw something at it. You know, throw some lye, throw something. Geesh. You
That's
know, but
that's what we've been missing this entire time, is just encasing the xenomorph in baking soda.
yeah, they're one weakness. You actually dry them out and they turn into, you know, they just kind of like alien jerky. It's just
Ew.
um
Pouring
yeah,
salt on a snail, easy as pie.
yeah, there you go. Um although that would also be funny. They come to find out this perfect organism and it just can't handle salt. It just um but yeah, like I said, I was actually disappointed that Bear died because like you said in the last episode, it actually had a bit of a personality to it. Um it was I was very disappointed that they killed it. I was thinking that they were going to do something to it that was going to mess it up real bad, like give it some sort of nerve damage or something where it's just like chronically just kind of like slumped to the left and stroking out for a couple of episodes until that it can recover, and then you have a full grown xenomorph on the island along with Wendy and these eggs and everything else. And I think that honestly, that probably would have been the smarter route to take, considering what we know later on in the season is that if they had done that and brought Bear to the island, plot twist, it's actually a mama bear. And, you know, you actually see the xenomorph actually going through the stages of going from drone to Praetorian to Queen or something like that. That would have been really cool because uh, in episode 4, where Wendy, I might be mixing 4 and 5 up, but Wendy is able to start talking to it a little bit.
Mhm.
In that
It's
something like
it's 4, yeah. In 3,
it,
they kind of put it out there that she can hear them. It's 4 when they're
yeah.
like, okay, well, now she can talk to them, which is something I
So
want to touch on.
right, right. Well, give me just 1 second to finish this thought then. Like, wouldn't it have been so cool to have this power dynamic between Wendy, able to talk to the xenomorph, and then she has the ones that she's been talking to, and then you have Bear. Pardon me. And then you have Bear, which, oh yeah, what if Bear was actually a queen? Or was one of those, or was like or go with the idea of that the xenomorphs are actually like parrotfish, where okay, there's too many males and then it morphs female. You
Hmm.
know, like actually canonize that being a thing in the series because like the comics will talk about it. I think the video games, yeah, the video games will talk about it, but we've never actually seen it canon in the film franchise. This would have been a great way to actually canonize that theory. And so you'd have this power this power dynamic between Wendy acting as a queen to these new aliens and the actual queen that's sitting here going, no, I'm the one you should be listening to, not her. That would have been a really cool dynamic to have given. Granted, they didn't go that route. Instead, they just killed Bear.
Yeah, all they really do, I mean, when you get down to it, is that they killed off one alien and replaced it with another.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we have a
Yeah,
good
one.
uh,
Yeah,
what's a cliffhanger at the end of episode 2, where Bear snatches up Joe, and we kind of have the face off, the fight between the three of them in the opening of this episode, resulting in its death. So then, for the rest of the episode, there's no alien. Yeah, we get the eggs, which are cool. Get a little bit of the face hugger, but we have to wait till the very end of the next episode 4, to see an alien again. Which in a show called Alien, that's a bit of a ways to go. But I mean, that's when we introduced her talking to the lung alien, I guess, which I'll admit that is an interesting concept. Though maybe
I
you will
honestly,
agree. I will disagree, Anita.
I have issues with it, but I have very many issues with it. But like, it's fine.
No, but like, I mean, we've seen before some kind of try to communicate with them with David. He tried to establish a sense of communication with the early stages of xenomorph as he was creating them. There was the one scene in Covenant where he's blowing on one of the aliens' faces and basically says, trying to, I can't remember the exact line, but he's trying to like get a form of trust for it. And then again, when he brings the captain down and the captain gets infected with the xenomorph, after the chest burster pops out, David is moving his arms and the xenomorph baby is moving its arms. And so it's something they've broached before, just never to this extent.
Yeah, and then and you could argue that there was some form of communication in Alien Resurrection, but honestly, I just think that Chucky was just insane and decided that he was just going to, rationalize his existence before being turned into food. For those of you who don't understand that reference, the Doctor in Alien Resurrection is actually played by the same actor that plays Chucky in the Child's Play films.
Wait a minute. A bear and a church. Yeah, Lost. You were talking about
Yeah,
Lost.
there we go.
That's it. Well,
That's been
I
bothering
mean, it took me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Ripley also, I guess, being a hybrid herself, Ripley 8, I should specify, had some sense of the hive, but more in like this collective hive mind kind of thing, not necessarily just outright communicating. So that's kind of the first where we see this. But I mean, that's
which honestly
thing.
that goes into the idea of the hybrid in Resurrection killing the Queen, because it was not connect. It did not see the Queen as its mother. It saw Ripley as its mother, and so it did not communicate properly with the Queen, so it kills the Queen, and then can't communicate properly with Ripley, and then tries to kill Ripley. So to a lesser
Tragic
extent,
character.
huh? Oh yeah, no,
Absolutely
definitely.
tragic.
Poor thing had a longer lifespan than Romulus, and yet somehow I felt more sympathy. Trying to avoid spoilers on that one, but no, this is not our first rodeo with them trying to establish the communications bit, and we always assumed it was pheromones. Because they always make the reference to the bug hunt, the ant colony, the beehive, etc. And those in real life are pheromone based. So we kind of just assumed it was that way, which would go into the idea of them not having eyes. And yet we do get POV shots. There's what was it? There was Alien 3, and what was the other one that has the POV shot of the alien?
Covenant.
Covenant, thank you. They both actually give us POV shots, even though these creatures clearly don't have eyes. So I have no idea. it's again, it's something that they've at least touched on.
Yeah. Just never to this
The
extent of actually like
Yeah,
vocalizing it.
yeah. This was their first attempt to actually vocalize it. I'll give it
Yeah.
that. The You already brought it up, so I'm going to talk about it. The lung alien.
Oh, I
Um,
have thoughts.
I I think that that was a terrible idea
Really?
because yes, it overrode so much of what we know about alien physiology.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we do know that it's DNA based, right? Like they take the forming to it takes the entirety of DNA to be able to form a full xenomorph when it comes out, right?
It
That's the
requires
logic
a
behind the facehugger, right? I mean, in the end of this episode, episode 3, Kirsch is cutting up the facehugger, and he pulls out this little kind of tadpole sperm, whatever you want to call it. So the idea that maybe we had from the original film, that's like implanting uh, uh, some kind of fetus that grows out. Not necessarily. It actually does kind of fuse with the host's DNA, taking out what it needs to form this alien. So, I mean, I would argue that it's sound enough based on what I've encountered in extended universe and things like that. Um, but something about it doesn't feel quite right. I'll say that. And
yeah.
the resulting xenomorph, I suppose, is maybe a lesser kind of xenomorph in a way. I mean, it's patchy. It doesn't seem fully developed. Uh, Maybe that was just an aesthetic choice, but something seems off about this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It
So
also
there is part of the
well,
process that must be missing.
yeah, no, it also seemed smaller than Bear.
Yeah.
That could have been just how it was shot. And again, camera work. Most of the time, whenever Patchy was out and about, it was either confined and not moving, or in the jungle running around a lot. Uh, but it seemed smaller than Bear did. My whole thing is that okay, so let's go with the idea that it is sperm. It's an embryo. It's a tadpole. Um, that means that these things generate the eggs, generate a face hugger, which latches onto the host. It needs to keep the host alive. Clearly, it needs to have a living host. It cannot use necromancy to create zombie xenomorphs. But like it, you need. I feel like you need the heart pumping, the brain functioning, the vital organs going because you are as a parasite, you are living off of the tissue and fat and proteins and vitamins and minerals of your host and growing and gestating and then okay, time to pop and it pops.
Mm-hmm.
A lung does not have that. A lung does not have enough anything in it in order to do that. Maybe it's in a nutrients rich solution and that's not actually water in the tank. But you need to verbiage that. You need to, as you need to tell us that's what's going on because otherwise it looks like, oh yeah, no, it can attach to any biomass and grow and turn into a full-fledged xenomorph. Because like the whole thing with the runner in Alien 3, it was so radically different because its host was not human. You know, the in Alien Resurrection, you can argue that the reason why they had this quote unquote upgraded look is because they were not fully xenomorph because they had human DNA already mixed in there, so they looked a little bit different than what we're used to. The aliens in Aliens looked a little more different, but if you really think about it, they looked very much still close to the drone did in the first film, with a couple of minute exceptions. And we did get established that there are honor guard, which are different, that hang around the queen. So like the idea of it being a lung that's just sitting there mechanically breathing, and that's it. Like that little wriggler goes in, causes a little bit of a blood splurt into the water, liquid or whatever, and then just we're just supposed to assume that it just sits there and gestates inside this lung. One, you've now pierced the lung, which means that this thing is not going to be doing too well anyway. Two,
Oh, you died.
the
Boomer.
the whole thing with it, yeah. Hello.
You cut off like halfway through there.
At two. Oh, okay. Whoa, whoa.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, he
Yeah.
really died.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't touch my screen in long enough time, so it decided to kick me out. That was weird. Oh, there are times I hate this phone. Anyway, but like
You have thoughts.
there are
You were at
there
two.
are
You were about to say two, and then it cut off. So you said one, and then you're about to say two. So you could
ah
continue from two.
okay. So we'll do that. So like one, you have the fact that it punctures in to the lung, and it now has ruptured this lung that has no way of healing itself, because you're just sitting there keeping air flowing through it because of cybernetics. And so now it's just swimming in this lung. Two, there's not enough nutrients in a lung. If you really look at most creatures, most carnivores, they leave the lungs. They go for the liver, they go for sometimes the upper intestines as opposed to the lower intestines. And maybe they'll gnaw on a heart, but typically they will pull the lungs out and leave those alone. They don't want to touch them because there's not enough nutrients in them.
Hmm.
So, like, just from a biological perspective, that makes very little sense. Does now let's assume that you are able to create this perfect environment where it's able to uh, gather enough vitamins and minerals and whatnots from its host that it is able to generate the cocoon form, crystallize into, or make a chrysalis into its chest burster form, and then go kerplow. That's going to obviously mess with it. Okay, cool. You showed us that with Patchy. I don't know what else to call this thing. I'm just going to call it Patchy because it has the
The
vertiligo or
markings,
whatever the heck.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but like, freaking, it does not make a lot of sense. I am suspending my disbelief simply because this is an alien organism, but God, do I hate the lung idea. I hate it.
What are your thoughts on
And
it, Theory?
You suppose it would be different though if it? I mean, obviously Joe wouldn't survive, but what if it were a heart that were put in that same environment? Would that have any difference? I don't know. I don't know whose idea this was. I'm going to say it was Noah Hawley's, since anything right or wrong, we'll probably give credit to him. I do wonder how much Ridley Scott might have had input in, because he was an executive producer, though from what I hear, he didn't have too much say. Um,
yeah.
but the funny thing is, Howley had said, I don't really follow or have need for things that were established in the prequels, the Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Uh, though that idea, it does kind of stem from things we've seen in those movies. I mean, without a delivery system like the face hugger, in lieu of that, we have just that black goo, the pathogen
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that can
Mm-hmm.
enter any orifice and I guess infect one person whose sperm will be infected, who will impregnate another person, which will give birth to a little squid. Uh, Whatever the logic may be there, those little spore pods that can either enter in through your ear or through your nose, whatever the delivery system is there, how it infects the entire body, the bloodstream. It comes out of one character's back. Another character, it just rips right out of their throat. So they do play fast and loose with how these kind of creatures can birth and take from the human host. We know for sure it's something. How much of it is semi-independent? How much does rely on a human host? What can take from it? We just haven't seen too much other than the dog xenomorph, or if you want to get into the Kenner toys. That's a whole other. I mean, they had a snake xenomorph. So how would you implant
One of my
into a
favorites was
snake?
that snake xenomorph.
Or,
One
or
of my
even like
favorites.
the comic Batman, the Batman aliens, how it got attached to a crocodile somehow, uh, shows the creature with the most difficult mouth to impregnate, but what have you. Um, you know, Biology expert I am not, uh, but sci-fi gobbledygook implanted in a lung makes enough sense to me. That was, I'll say, the least of my worries when it comes to things in Alien Earth. And yet again, we have inconsistencies with the actual gestation. In one of these movies, we can have a face hugger attach itself for literally 2 seconds to a character, which is enough, apparently, to
Yeah,
impregnate them. Uh, Here we have, well, in a later episode, uh, when Arthur is attacked by the facehugger. It's on him for quite some time, and this lung xenomorph, it's gestating for literally an entire episode. That's an hour. So in movie time, that's an eternity. Whereas in other movies, we've seen it, in a matter of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I mean, as much as I delve deep into the series, I'm fully prepared and willing and happy to acknowledge inconsistencies. Uh,
That's fair. That's
it's fun
fair.
sometimes. It's fun to play with ideas, and I like that they went for that. I think it did connect to the prequels, maybe in an inadvertent way, or maybe Holly wasn't quite on the up and up about acknowledging certain things from Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but it felt in line with that. Felt in line with what was established before, uh, plausible or even sensical. Who knows? But cool sci-fi stuff, cool imagery, of this artificial pumping of the lung, and I love, jumping ahead to the end of episode 4. I love that image of the blood filling up and the alien bursting out. I thought that was really really cool, and talking to it and kind of this tender moment, which, if it is her brother's lung, which I think is the key part of it, it's not just any lung, it's her brother's lung. So, in a way, this alien is a relative to her, which gives her a
That
connection to it.
that was actually another thought I had was, is this going to be another Monica situation? And for those who do not know who Monica is a xenomorph who was created by a serial killer named Monica, who was selected to be part of some of the experiments that Weyland-Yutani was hosting. And she became obsessed with one of the scientists who she had dated beforehand. And the xenomorph ended up being obsessed with the scientist because she had been obsessed with the scientist. So I'm wondering if, going into the later episodes, the reason why the xenomorph listens to Wendy and like actually talks back to her and things like that is because it's another Monica situation where there was something there before, and so it's just feeding off of that.
Well, okay. And though I understand that, that's also a video game where canon is kind of loosey goosey. But when we were just talking about how like, oh, well, obviously it would have killed Hermit if they had done it to Hermit. Yes and no, because if you remember in the opening bits of Alien Resurrection, granted they were dealing with a corpse, they did extract the queen, the queen chest burster from Ripley before they, in their various attempts to clone them, and something about the merging process, them trying to clone Ripley was creating these weird xeno-human hybrids, and them trying to clone the Queen was resulting in these malformed xeno-human hybrids until finally they were able to refine the process enough that they could get an almost human and an almost xeno. So, like, I feel like they, especially considering how many precautions that they are supposed to take, I swear, Prodigy is the Jurassic Park of coulda, shoulda, woulda. Um,
In this episode, Boy Cavalier literally just peeks his head into the egg, just so we know who
Just
we're
for
dealing with
funs.
here.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
for
exactly.
fun.
Just for fun.
But I could easily have seen them go, okay, sure, fine, and then Hermit walks into his room and is immediately glomped. They by the facehugger, they wheel him away, and once the facehugger detaches, they dose Hermit, cut him open, and extract it without it chest bursting because they would want it in the most sterile environment possible so they could study it properly. Like a logical scientist with no morals is still going to be a scientist and does not want outside factors to come into play. So I feel like that would have been a much better way of doing it than the lung sperm. But
Well, you could make the argument that Ripley 8 is more resilient, and wouldn't be harmed by the extraction. Uh, if we assume that Kirsch has to follow, the Asimov rules that Bishop references, then maybe he wouldn't be able to do that with the risk of killing Joe. I don't know. Whether or not he follows that is not clear.
honestly, I think out of the entire series, if the entire series lasts as long as I hope it does, I want the very last plot reveal to be that they are hooking Lance Hendrickson up to one of the hybrids, and you find out that every single bishop ever is actually Wayland is actually Wayland himself, who has just been body hopping the entire franchise.
So is it Wayland of AVP or Wayland of Prometheus?
I'd be okay
Aha.
with either because if you think about it, AVP obviously is in quote unquote modern times versus all the way up into Prometheus where it's no longer modern times. So like just imagine if he had synthed himself in or hybrided himself in because of the research that Wayland Yutani stole from Prodigy, and so they just have kept body hot. He's just been downloading himself into new bodies this entire time. Like that kind of would really work for me. I'd be okay with that as a plot twist, like a final plot twist to end the series on.
They really should try to get him in some capacity, even if he just calls in, on uh, a voiceover for a computer or something. Just have him in some capacity, just a little cameo or something.
Just something.
It'd be nice.
Look, as long as they don't do that god awful rotoscoping on the face that they did in Romulus, where sometimes his teeth actually exited his face, I'd be okay with that.
What
I
you mean
was
I mean,
like
Lance
actually
Henriksen is
genuinely
still
worried
alive.
that they might do the de-aging thing and like bring Ripley back for the final episode and be like, "Hey guys, I'm taking off on the Nostromo." I was very worried, to be honest, because there were rumors that they were working on something with a de-aged Sigourney Weaver. They quashed those, but still.
I mean, if they can do it to Princess Leia, they'll do it to anybody. And they've gotten a lot better at it. Like everybody knows of the Princess Leia scene in Rogue One. Most people are aware of the Peter Cushing scene, also in Rogue One. Uh, Actually, they have several scenes now that I think about it. Anyway, but then they also what a lot of people forget about is Tron Legacy, where they took
Oh,
uh where they took Jeff Bridges, and de-aged him, but also had his normal aged self in the film too. So it was really uncanny, but God, I'll tell you right now, they did it so much better in Tron Legacy simply because of the setting. They kept him in the shadows a lot, so it didn't look so uncanny. The one time it actually looks uncanny is right there at the end when he gets blown up. But like I could see him still pull it off. I think if nothing else, I think that the Nostromo actually, like the ship itself, actually leaving port, and us actually seeing it leave port, would be all you really need.
I, I don't know. I feel like if they did add the Nostromo, like anything to do with the crew of the Nostromo, it wouldn't be until much later in the series. Like I have no idea how many seasons that Noah's wanting to make of this. Um, but I don't know if I'd want that in there.
I'm just saying, if they do, that would be the best way to do it. Is just have the Nostromo leaving, and maybe you don't even show the ship. Maybe you just show it on it is scheduled to leave the dockyard or something, and you have it maybe next season. For the sheer purpose of, remember, this one zoology trip took 65 years.
Mm-hmm.
We know that this is an extended trip that they're on for this mining thing. So they go off and, do their thing, and then that's whenever they get the bip of the SOS and go to check it out. So like, and obviously, oh, I forgot the android's name in the first one. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he had already received, he consulted Mother confirmed, and then it was okay. Crew is now expendable because Wayland Yutani's programming and everything goes, okay, no, that's priority. You do that now. So clearly by that point they knew about it, but they had to keep it under wraps because they didn't know where it was going to pop up. They were basically throwing spaghetti at a wall trying to go, okay, it's somewhere in this area. Where is it? And they got the ping. Like that is my logic onto what happened. So I think that maybe it's in the dockyard. Maybe we see the shuttle, the shuttle log or something like that, and Nostromo just happens to be on there. And I'd be okay with that.
That I'd be okay with. I think like actually showing the ship taking off or something. I don't think a big Easter egg like that should be added, but like something small.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
it
you
just
could do it.
depends on what he wants to do, how he with the show, I guess, how he
Yeah.
wants to connect it. I mean, I'll say, I'd like a cute little cameo with Lance Henriksen's voice, but uh, one thing, I really got to give this show credit for is that they don't do the whole let's do relatives of people from the original movie kind of thing. Hey, I'm uh, Joe Dallas. My
Oh
my
yeah, yeah.
my brother's on the Nostromo or some crap like
Yeah,
that.
I'm blah 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 Lambert, and I'm blah blah blah's, character. Yeah. No, I agree. There's not any. I refer to them as member berries. One of those. Hey, member this? Hey, member that? Hey, member this thing too? There's not a lot of nostalgia bait, thankfully. uh, there's like the nostalgia honestly just comes from the IP, and that's it. So
Yeah, it's
I
a little more
agree.
subtle, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The fact
Mhm.
that they don't beat you over the head with 20 bajillion cameos, drag Jean-Luc Picard out of retirement just to give him one last hoorah on a mediocre show. Like, I don't think that's warranted in a series like this. The fact that you're even giving us a series is enough to keep our butts in the seats at this point because we're starved for content.
Really, I think the only quote name brand character, I guess, would be Utani
Yeah.
in this series. Like, obviously, they don't do a Wayland or anything like that. Which, yeah, I thought she was a pretty good part of this. I mean, this is, I guess, we're still kind of three bleeding into four in this conversation, but we see more of her finally in I don't know, I guess episodes 2 and 3. One, she's talking to Cavalier on the little iPad or whatever. Then she actually has a call with Morrow in this episode, the third one, which an important key plot point that he reveals is that there was sabotage on the Maginot. He tells her there was sabotage involved. He doesn't say who or what, but I think it is kind of here where we kind of get the seeds planted and the suspicions growing that Boy Cavalier has done something to orchestrate having these specimens in his hands to come to his island, which we would, find out later. And it's a weird thing to me. I mean, we mentioned, you know, seeing Bear as a character and having, I don't know, a weird kind of sympathy. But what struck me as so weird watching this show, since we have this new corporation that, is invented purely for this show, it's such a strange feeling for me to feel some kind of, I don't know, regard for Wayland Yutani, where I feel like they're being wronged. Their specimens are being stolen by this little punk, you know.
Oh no, Captain Bad Guy had a bad thing happen to them. Oh no.
Like, why should I have any kind of loyalty to Wayland Yutani just because I know it? They're an evil corporation like any other, but I feel, man, they're getting kind of screwed here, and they would until, I guess, until the final episode of this season.
Yeah, Boy Cavalier seems to have orchestrated this entire thing perfectly. Like he getting into episode 5 a bit, like what he did there, and then playing Utani like a damn fiddle, getting his way in the end. I mean, he's thought this out, and he's made her show her hand that she wants these creatures back. And he knows that whatever's there, he wants more than her because it can give him a leg up in anything that she wanted. And it's just, it's it's really cool to see his character go from this this person who is putting the minds of children into synthetics to suddenly he's now one of the corporations that is in a race against another corporation to get the information of whatever is on that ship.
Well, yeah, yeah. He goes from philanthropist to mustache twirling supervillain. It's often referred to in pop culture as the Xanatos Gambit, where no matter the outcome, you win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much did he know? How much did he know beforehand? What was this? Was this another flight of fancy for him where he goes, okay, Utani is after something out here. I want to know what. And then he finds out, oh, yeah, no, it's zoological specimens. And for some reason, he goes, not only do I want that, I want to keep Utani away from it as long as possible. Out of spite? Or is there something more that we just don't understand yet? Um, You know, the the biggest thing for me is that we are told so little and yet shown so much.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge fan of what is referred to as nonverbal storytelling. And this show, I will give it this also. This show does a lot of really good nonverbal storytelling, especially with Timothy Oliphant's character. He does a lot of security camera stuff where he's just sitting here and he's watching, and you see him see things that we know that he shouldn't see, and he keeps quiet about it, and he waits,
Well, going into
and he
episode 4 with Slightly and Morrow there, um, Kirsch is aware that, like, he studies the film of Morrow talking to Slightly, and he knows that something happened. He doesn't know what yet, but he knows something happened, and then he starts listening into the conversations because Morrow planted that whatever the fuck it was. I don't even know. Um, Tracker and speaker into his neck, and he doesn't say anything. So it's interesting to see like this subplot going on of a subplot. Like Morrow is trying to get Slightly to get the xenomorph, and meanwhile Kirsch is listening into these conversations and doing nothing, and we don't know what his motive is. We don't know anything, and it's frustrating, but it's fun because it adds to a lot of questions that I'm hoping will get answered.
yeah, no, he fascinates me because you brought up alien theory, you brought up the Asimov reference. You know, he can't do harm to humans, or at least that's what Bishop tells us in uh, Aliens. You know, he yet he's not. In this case, he's not. He's watching other synthetics go about their day and and do these things, and um, like he clearly is aware of what's going on, and yet he's not really informing anybody about the possible sabotage. It's almost as if he is running his own science experiment behind the scenes. That's kind of what it feels like to me.
Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, or whatever the order of that is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little speech. Yeah, whatever his motivations may be, I don't know. I mean, I always try to keep tab of whatever theories. I mean, some people thought, oh, he's actually been working for Wayland Yutani the whole time. I don't know about that. Um, is he just playing both sides and seeing whoever comes out on top, and that's where he'll stand? Is he a David type where he has just this disdain for humanity, which he seems to have, and wants to see it fail in whatever way possible, and sees the xenomorph as this perfect organism, what truly deserves to reign? I don't know. They've kept him a mystery, which it is partly fun, partly frustrating. I think they do ultimately get away with it because, I mean, Oliphant's just so good
Yeah.
in the role. I mean, him and Babu Cisse, I gotta say they're my two favorite characters, and whenever these two kind of get together, which we see at the beginning of the third episode, and then we get some more of them in episode 7 or 6. No, episode 6. We see a little more of them, and then in the finale, obviously, there's more. Um, he's just so good, and still at this point, we're kind of struggling with Morrow. Like, can we really trust this guy? I mean, he's obsessed with the specimens. That's his life's goal. Why exactly is that? We do kind of get a better sense of it in the following episode in 5, but really, he's doing this terrible stuff. He's luring in this kid, yeah, with that, you know. Apple AirPod tracker thing, whatever he put in him. Um, in so many ways, threatening his family. He was very easily able to uh, track them down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which you know, whether he would have done anything, I don't know. Uh, if he's half synthetic, cyborg, does he have to follow any rules? He certainly let his crew die without too much of a fuss, so that would be one of the rules that was not followed. But does the company's orders supersede that rule? So I mean, whatever the case may be, we're still struggling with that. Is he an anti-hero? So I don't know. As it would end up in the finale, maybe he does deserve his ultimate fate. I don't know. But I think things get a little clearer with that fifth episode. I thought that was kind of, if my mind wasn't made up by then or before then, it certainly was when we finally got to see, for lack of a better way of putting it, his side of the story with the in space, no one dot dot dot, which is the fifth episode's name, which is a little strange of a name. I mean, all the episodes kind of unusual names, I guess.
No, but they have
Uh,
unusual
yeah.
names, but I feel like they fit the theme.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's not like I don't know, like Friends, like the one with the lung burster. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's just it's different. It's good.
Well, no, the Fly episode. I think that's episode 5.
No, that's episode 7.
7, 7.
Yeah.
No, it's
Really?
six. It's
Is it?
six.
Is it 6?
It's
Okay.
six.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, episode 6, The Fly. The whole thing is like your attention is on the fly creature, but also uh, the people watching the security cameras. They are the fly on the wall. So
Ah.
like I get a lot of the themes, in space, in space dot dot dot, and like it goes back to the classic tagline, in space no one can hear you scream. That's the one where we get the flashback of what happened on the ship. Like there, it makes a lot of sense. It just you gotta put your thinking cap on. I think there are some times where this show has a nasty habit of being too smart for its own good, and other times where these people need to be a lot smarter than what they are.
Cavaliers definitely in
Like,
his fuck around and find out phase, and it's like,
yeah, no,
oh, all
I
the
could see
decisions
that.
he's made. I can understand to a point wanting to see if you can play God in these movies because that is the ultimate question. You've gotten so far in your advancement of technology. What comes next? Well, let's make children into synthetics and make them never die. It's a boredom thing. He's clearly bored, and everything he's done up to this point is because he was bored, and it's made him make some really questionable decisions, especially with bringing the specimens back to the island and conducting his own experiments, using Joe's lung as incubator for the xenomorph, using Wendy to talk to the xenomorph, all because he wants to have an interesting conversation. And every decision he's made just pisses me off.
No, he's definitely a bad guy that you love to hate. Uh, you can fault him all day long, but you can't call him a liar. He's very straightforward about why he's doing it. He might leave out some crucial details, but generally speaking, he tells you from the get-go why he's doing it all.
Another kind of thing that they left hanging a little bit that I thought was going to be a bigger deal than it was Hurley and her whole kind of mentorship
Yeah.
aspirations with him. You kind of
Oh
thought that, okay,
yeah.
she's going behind Wendy's back. She wants to be number one. He says, "Oh, you're in the running," and all that. Uh, Nothing really came of that, which disappointed me a little bit, just because I thought a little infighting with the Lost Boys might have been, interesting, dramatic, but they kind of abandoned it almost at the beginning of episode 4, where everything he does is because he's bored. I guess he got bored with her, and he just said, "Go over there, pull some knobs over there, pretend you're doing something," and that's where it kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that. Just
Yeah.
because it meant so little to the overall story.
He got
Yeah,
so
no.
fascinated with the fact that Wendy could hear the creatures that it instantly, like, he just forgot about Curly. Like, that was no longer something that was even remotely exciting to him anymore, that one of the hybrids was seeking him out to become the favorite and try to be what he was searching for. The moment that Wendy is his actual favorite, because she has a supercomputer for her brain, she can hear frequencies that others can't, she has all these abilities, she can fuck around with the security cameras and you know all this other shit. There was never
Then he
any.
almost gets bored with that.
Yeah.
Like the very next scene is, oh, the image is in the lamb now. That's kind of cool. Can I talk to this thing?
Yeah, like, he's just, his ADHD with everything is just one after the other.
And it speaks to the scientific curiosity. It's just like what makes Boy Cavalier the villain, is such a good antagonist is the fact that science, the whole point of science is to question. He questions and has no regard for what the answers are and doesn't care what the answers are. He questions because he wants to know. But as soon as a better question comes along, he follows that other question. And it's, again, another Jurassic Park reference. Your scientists spent so long trying to figure out if they could, they never stopped to ask if they should.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it, like, he wants the next most exciting thing, and the guy who plays him does a fantastic job. Trying to remember his name now. Um,
Samuel Blinken.
yes, Samuel Blinken. I think he does a fantastic job, and I was watching a an interview with the cast members, and he was talking about, like, his process and how to bring Cavalier to life, and just some of the decision making that they did, like the part where Cavalier is talking to Yutani on the tablet, and he holds the tablet up with his feet. It's just little things like that kind of.
Oh, his feet.
Yeah.
Jeez. I think we've all seen enough of his feet throughout this whole series.
Yeah. Just little things like that he said, that, like, this is exactly what this character would do, this is what would make sense for this point in time.
Yeah, no, he's again, he's an odd. I like him. I like him a lot. I have thoughts and I can't talk about him yet because we're not out of that episode. But anyway, yeah, no. Um, okay, so Russ, how do I want to word this? Anita, why don't you tell us about episode 4 so we can pop on to 5 and et cetera and so forth. So what all give us a summary of 4.
Well, I mean, episode 4, like, you get into more of the PTSD that Nibs was having after the ship. I mean, like I stated bit ago, that it came out in a violent anger. Like, she went after Dame Sylvia because of she the fact that she didn't like what was being talked about. She didn't want to accept the fact that she's no longer human. She wanted to continue this idea that she was normal. She was still normal, and it's it shows that she's breaking mentally, and she doesn't know how to process it. She's not being given the resources to process it properly, and I don't think that she ever would be able to, considering the fact that yeah, she's no longer human. She's not going to be able to handle these things as well as if she was still human. She's trying to take control of a situation that she knows she has no control over.
How old do you think she was whenever they converted her? Like just ballpark it.
I mean, they talked about how she had trauma in her past, so I'm guessing that she was a very depressive child.
Well, yeah, but like age it for me. Do you think she was 10, 12?
Uh, I'd say between 8 and 10.
Because one thing that in my own personal experience with kids, uh, a lot of them, especially the girls, will talk about how they'll start. That's when they start daydreaming a little bit, and they go, "I want to be a mom," or "I want to be, I think I'd make a really good babysitter," or blah blah blah. And so she regressed. I feel like what happened was because the Iapus, the Occupod, the whatever you want to call it, um, whenever it tried to grab her and replace her eye with itself, it traumatized the heck out of her, obviously. Uh, and she regressed back into, okay, everything was a lot better whenever I was a little kid. And so she kind of went into a little kid mode and goes, I'm gonna be a mom. I'm gonna be, and like I think that's where that stems from, because it's just a little kid wanting to play pretend again, and a little kid desperately trying to convince herself that she's going to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And in this situation, neither of those are true. She's not ever going to grow up, and she's never going to be a mother. And whenever faced with the reality of it, like you said, she reacts violently
Yeah.
because no, you don't understand. I am going to do this. This is mine. This is what It's a child throwing a tantrum.
It's trying to take control of a situation she has no control over anymore, is what it boils down
Uh,
to.
at least that's my thought.
Yeah.
In this episode, we have Dame and Arthur too, and they're kind of encountering this firsthand. She comes to them very gleeful, holding her belly. Oh, I'm pregnant. And yeah, I mean, for all the reasons you mentioned, and I did see an interview with her where she said, it was kind of her character's way of grasping onto some bodily autonomy
Mm-hmm.
by creating this delusion somewhere within her, uh, where she's not necessarily making it up. She feels it somewhere within her, but maybe that's not quite what it is. I don't know, but I would suspect these two characters, Arthur and Dame, they're the husband and wife scientist team. Uh, they're not able to conceive. I think it actually is mentioned in actually the first episode.
Yeah.
I think Arthur mentions it. So whoever may be unable to on whoever's end, whatever, not that it matters. Um, they kind of replace their own needs and wants for children with these hybrids. They do treat them as their children, and in a naive way, where they're not their children, though they act like they are. And I don't know. It is a little. Is it ironic? Is it to say it's ironic that Arthur is the one who ends up getting pregnant and having a child later? I don't know, but that was kind of for me. Like again, I'll say episodes 3 and 4, uh, they lulled a little bit with me, but
Mm.
this part of the storyline I really liked, and I liked how these two characters did finally confront in words to each other, expressing it, at least Arthur, saying, hey, maybe we did something wrong. Maybe we actually killed 6 kids and our science is completely wrong. Which I'll have to give credit to the show for actually acknowledging, because a lot of stuff they'll leave out, like what's the actual practical nature of this hybrid technology, who's going to buy it in the future, how much is it going to be, what will its purpose be, what will the ownership be, likely with Boy Cavalier, whatever. How does it actually work, who knows, why can only kids be transferred, they don't really explain. But that's not necessarily the big picture. The big picture, I guess, is, can the human essence be transferred into a machine? And I, I don't know. Does the series, in its final season episode, does it come to a conclusion? I don't know, but at least they bring it up here, and it gives you something to kind of to chew on a little bit with this episode. And of course, we get a little bit more with Morrow's plan, where he's convincing uh, Slightly to do his bidding for him, get the specimen, and to do that is to get a host. And once again, poor Hermit, always kind of put into a situation where he's in trouble. So this episode kind of ends with that very eerie image of one Hermit kind of looking at the really bad scar that was left from taking his lung out, and pulling out to see Slightly outside, and you think, oh, this guy's in trouble. Um, I loved all that of this episode, and actually, you know what? This episode does have something I found kind of interesting, where it answers the question, if we don't know what may go on with these characters in terms of sexuality, in terms of biology, whatever. At least we know how they eat. So they have these little packets, I guess. They look almost like ink cartridges that they just open up, and they're different flavors, I guess, but not flavors in the traditional sense that we know them. But they send, I don't know, these electric signals to them that register in their robot brains that are a certain taste, and so they snack on them, and I guess it keeps them kind of oiled up or circuited up. I don't know quite what it does, but I liked how they added that in too. So there are some kind of fun world building things to be found in this episode. But again, we have the very first moments of episode 3. Alien is there, it dies. No alien until the very end of this episode, episode 4. That's a long time to wait
It
in
is.
the title Alien show.
Well, the about the food cartridges thing, I the first time I saw them, I went, "Are they eating Nintendo Switch games? Which one of them was Super Smash Brothers? Come on now." That's kind of what I thought of.
I thought they were
Um,
Listerine pocket packs. Do you remember those? Those were cool.
yeah,
I used to love
yeah.
those.
Well, I think they still sell them, but don't quote me on that. Um, no, the biggest thing for me is okay, it's called Alien Earth, and we are down an alien for an entire episode. It takes, you know, from the start of episode 3 to the end of episode 4 for us to get another xenomorph. And that is essentially a 2-hour time frame of just nothing. However, they did start playing with the other aliens. You know, we did get the eyeball octopus. We did get the uh flea tick thing. We got, they kept staring at the fly hive thing. Like they were doing other things as a way to draw attention to the fact that, yeah, no, this is alien Earth. The show's called Alien Earth, and we have more than just xenomorphs. There are other aliens here. And so I thought that we were going to wind up playing with those a lot more. Just from the series as a whole, I thought we were going to play with those more. We didn't as much as I thought we would, but I don't necessarily hate that. We did get to see several of them in action throughout this entire season. I just wish we had gotten more. And I do agree with you that I do not believe that these things all came from the same planet. There was one theory that I read where people are going, yeah, no, they're all from the same planet, and that's why everything's so hostile because they're all hostile to each other. And I went, you don't know how biology works. These clearly these are the there's a reoccurring theme through most of these creatures, with the exception of the fly, which I'm still not sure about. But it is survivability, intelligence, and the fact that they are, for the most part, parasitic. All of them are pretty much exclusively parasites. Again, the fly is a little bit of a different story, but the ticks, obviously they're parasitic. The plant starfish thing, uh, we're not we don't have enough information on that. We do know that it is reminiscent of the xenomorph eggs because because it will latch itself to air to walls and kind of just stay there. And then once it detects that this is something that is edible, it will latch on. Um, but like the octopus eyeball thing, it's clearly a parasite. I keep expecting for a in if we do get a season two, I'm expecting a zombie episode that is just this octopus um that is basically just either body hopping or it winds up reproducing, and there's like 20 of them, and they're all, and we have like just a zombie episode,
Oh,
something of that.
please.
Yeah, like we're going to do something like that. And in the flashback episode to the ship, whenever everything went to hell in a handbasket, the fact that it was able to scream and the xenomorph reacted to it. It wasn't a full-on conversation, but it clearly was trying to mimic the cry for help. And then immediately it attacked the xenomorph. So it's like, okay, this thing, its whole MO is that it is smart enough to realize that this body is crap. I need a better body. And so it was trying to latch on to, it is trying to latch on to the biggest threat in the room so it can become the biggest threat in the room. That's a parasite. That is a hyper intelligent parasite. Xenomorphs, the same situation. They are their whole goal is to survive in the new environment, latch onto a target, reproduce, become the biggest, baddest creature the biggest, baddest dude in the prison yard, and then take over. Like they, for the most part, all of these creatures are apex predators. The fly is the one that confuses me. And I think that was gotten mostly because of the survivability aspect. The fact that they have so few ways to sustain themselves that they biologically they have decided that they are going to eat minerals instead. That was fascinating. Granted, I'm jumping ahead, but you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by these animals.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get a lot more out of them. Um but at the same time that this is supposed to be a xenomorph show. So I get shining the light on them a little bit while we wait for the next xenomorph to come out. Um, I'm hoping that if there is a second season, they will obviously, like, considering the finale, they will touch on that again, but also the fact that there's more of them out of containment now. Like the plant thingy, whatever the fuck that is. And like I just there's a bunch of them that I would have loved to get more information on than just the split seconds that we got out of what we have so far with the episodes.
Yeah, no, like any single one of these would make a great horror film by itself.
Oh yeah.
And then you basically just uh Annabelle Homecoming them all in this one show, but we don't have the dread of having all these other aliens and knowing what they're capable of. Now the fear is, what do you do? Like the unpredictability factor.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the dread comes from. Except once again, it's the execution. I don't think it's handled quite well, or maybe their focus is split one too many ways. I'm not sure. There's something. I really enjoy them as monsters. As a monster fan, these monsters are cool.
You could argue that the image kind of stole the show. I mean, when you think of the imagery that leaves you with the most, I mean, I always just think of that the creepy way the lamb is just staring with that thing attached to its eye. I mean, that's just such a memorable and eerie image. And it's kind of great to see, like, if you follow the Alien Earth socials and things like that. Already you're seeing around October, right? People are like dressing up in
Yeah.
lamb costumes, and they have the little eye on them. It's so great. It really kind of became this runaway hit of the show. With all respect to the flies and the ticks and the killer plant, I think the image really kind of stole the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think they're coming out
Well,
with a
and
Funko Pop now too of the sheep with the
Yeah.
image.
oh god,
Yeah.
no, like the the beauty of it is it's such a simple design, and like I said, it's basically a space zombie. Uh, and it is the most overtly intelligent in a way that we can grasp as viewers. And I think that's why it has stolen the show,
Mm.
because it is so unique, and yet we can gravitate to it so well. But that's just my theory.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, we've been going for half an hour or an hour and a half.
Which one?
It's time, man. It's an illusion.
Wait, which
Okay.
episode are we on?
Well, four.
So this will be a 12-part series. You
Yeah,
are aware of that.
apparently.
Look, okay, I've had thoughts since this show came out. Okay.
We'll have to do an episode per each commercial break per each show, which in the streaming era, every time it fades out, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it may be streaming era, but let's be honest, it's it this show in particular did air actually on TV. So,
Yeah, and I thought that was a smart move. I mean, you don't see that too much, but to have it simultaneously being able to stream at, what was it? It was 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays, and literally at the exact same time air on TV at that time, though with obviously ad breaks and everything like that. I think that opened it up to a big audience, which I know the first two episodes, it was a big hit. I don't know what the holdup is with the season two. Why are we even here saying if there's a season two? Well, I hope there's a season two. Why don't we know at this point if there is? I mean, that's a little worrying. I don't know, but I could talk about that for another hour and a half, maybe.
Or
I
half
don't
an
know,
hour, whichever one it is.
or half an hour.
No, but
well,
you are right. Like you would think that with because it's not like this show flopped by any means. You would think that after the numbers had come in, they'd be like, "Okay, you're greenlit."
yeah, there's something clearly there is something going on behind the scenes that we are not privy to, which is forcing a delay. And a buddy of mine was talking about it, going, you know what I think's going on? I think that they are trying to justify concluding the Covenant trilogy and using Alien Earth to try and bring it back. There was
So it's Ridley Scott screwing around.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
There's also talks of them doing a sequel to Romulus, which has a lot of people going, okay, cool, this is awesome. But then we would have to worry about brand saturation, because if we have Alien Earth, a sequel to Romulus, and we're trying to see if we can finish out the trilogy, the prequel trilogy, then people are going to get tired of xenomorphs real quick. Like, brand dilution is a thing; it is a real thing. You know, we gotta. So as of right now, they're talking about pacing being a big deal. I, personally speaking, think that it would be in their best interest to take the Covenant trilogy, take that third film, and try and incorporate it into Alien Earth. And that way you could kind of just bridge that gap and say, oh, look, see, it's all there. We fixed it. That would probably be in their best intentions to do, but I'm not Hollywood. I'm just a guy who critiques their movies.
I'm honestly scared to let you anywhere near Hollywood because all of your ideas would be too much and they would explode.
Look, I am amazing for many things. Execution is not one of them, so I think we'll be fine. Well, that's a wrap for this particular episode of the Coffin Table podcast. Part 2 of 3 and counting. At this point, we're basically going to wind up being Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with our podcast numbers. Anyway, if you enjoyed our deep dive into the dark, then obviously rate, review, and share. Until next time, stay spooky and don't look under the bed.
And keep watching the skies.
Oh, Lord.